All right, welcome to our webinar on webinars. So I'm going to talk about a few tips and tricks and things to help you have a successful webinar in the midst of all that we're doing and all these virtual meetings. There's been a number of things we have found that we could frankly do better. And so I've given some best tips of all the years of doing these. I've been doing it for about 9 or 10 years now, teaching by webinar, and I found a few things that work and a few things that don't. And then that's just gonna be a few minutes, and then we're gonna launch into the tool we're using to actually do the meetings and webinars. So I'm gonna go ahead and get started. Again, this is a webinar on webinars, and it can be challenging keeping people's attention and finding the right tools to engage them, remembering all the little things there. So I want to run through a few things with you. The first thing is to make sure you have a solid internet connection. And I know some of you may be in remote areas with not so great connection, or you really like using your phone or your iPad to do quick meetings and quick webinars. The tools we're going to talk about later do just that. They will let you do that on a mobile device. But it is best if that mobile device is actually connected to wireless signal in your home, not to the cell phone cellular data. That's generally not good enough. And what we're seeing more and more is that the lowest speed in your group will actually drag you down. And so I was doing a uh, webinar meeting, I guess, about a month ago, and we actually had to ask somebody. I actually kicked them off because their internet was so slow; they kept freezing and couldn't. When they were trying to talk, it lagged, and it was a bunch of problems. So make sure first you have solid high internet speed. Next, uh, hear better. Earbuds are your friend with webinars for a variety of reasons. One, if you're the listener or the student or the person it's meeting with, having earbuds in lets that sound go straight to your ears. It's not echoing about. You don't get muffled sound, especially from if you don't have great speakers. Most of us don't have great speakers built into our laptops. Even myself as an Apple lover, can say that they have probably some of the best speakers out there. Some of the newer laptops, the high-end laptops, have good speakers out there, and they're still not good enough. They're still too small, too tingy, whatever, tingy, something, to give you good quality sound. And so, if you don't want, for you to, while you're attending a webinar, have to keep trying to figure out what people are saying or it doesn't sound good, it's probably because you're using the built-in speakers. The other big factor for both you, the speaker, as well as the person who's taking it, is there is going to be echo. So if you're presenting your webinar or your virtual meeting, and one of the people there wants to share, so they're going through their microphone, what's happening is that the audio coming out of your speakers is going back into the microphone, and everybody else is just hearing feedback and rustling in the background and noisiness and crinkling stuff, and it's horrible and it's incredibly irritating. So whether you are presenting or whether you are taking a meeting virtually or by webinar, you need to have earbuds in. It'll help you and everybody else. Also, a good microphone is important. And so I know that your laptop probably has a built-in microphone of some sort. Just like I said with the speakers, it will not be the highest or best quality. It is enough to get you by. And it is much better to use, like I have the AirPod Pros in now, or even if you get, it doesn't have to be expensive. It could be the earbud strings that have the microphone built in, or you can invest in a nice microphone. And if you invest in a nice microphone, like the Bluetooth here, which is my favorite, it's about a $250 microphone. Because I do a lot of this, so I wanted quality stuff. And even then, the more high end you get, the more things you have to worry about and how you get the sound just right and is it too powerful or not. So I'm a big fan of just going with earbuds with strings, and I know some people get uncomfortable with that thought of people are going to see me with earbuds and strings and don't worry about it. Everybody's used to it now. We all walk around with things in our ears. So Bluetooth earbuds with microphones built in, or the wired ones with the microphone built in. It doesn't have to be expensive to be good. I would just find a nice pair that work for you and test it out. Like just do some recording on your laptop before you get started into your meeting or your webinar. Whether you're taking it or attending it, this will help other people hear you and hear you more clearly. Stop looking down. Here's the thing. You open up your laptop door or you're on your phone, and people have a tendency to do this. And they're looking down like this is because how you normally use your phone, or the camera on your laptop than that little camera on your laptop, and you're looking down at it. And this is what everybody sees here. Is, like they're looking up your nose, or that you're looking down and grumpy. Be cognizant when you're doing the meetings or webinars what you're doing with your face and how it looks. So my suggestion is that you take and get a camera at or slightly above eye level, so that you're looking at just a little up or right at it, and make sure that that camera is set to whatever angle. Just make sure you know what's going on behind you on your camera, and also make sure that it's up here at eye level and not that you're looking down like this. It's awkward for people. Makes your face look distorted, and it's not great. Next thing is lighting. This is backlighting, so you'll see the window has the natural light coming in. That's making my face look dark and not so featureful. You don't see like a normal person who's talking, and then there's shadowing and shading, and it looks bad. So you don't want a lot of light coming in from behind you if you're using video at all or camera. You want the light coming from the front of you. And so the other thing about cameras is looking at the camera as much as possible. And it's hard when you're trying to pay attention. Like I'm looking down now and I'm glancing down to see if anybody had their hands raised or anything in the chat section or webinar. But what happens is, you don't want people seeing that lower picture that I have of myself there, where you're looking down and focusing the whole time. It's distracting for the person viewing. So as much as is possible, look at that camera as if it's the eyes of the person you're talking to. So, I mean, don't be creepy and stare into it, but you want to look at it as if that's the little robot or whatever you want to deal with that's talking to you. So keep it at eye level, maybe a little higher, look into it as often as possible, and only glance down when you need to to be seen. And then lighting is important. And there's a bunch of things out there. You don't need to go broke doing this. There's like the little, in the top left-hand corner, you see that little construction light with the can and the clamp on it. Be careful, don't on your laptop, because it's got a lot of pressure in those little things you can buy at Lowe's. You want to get some other type of stand or rig for it so it doesn't break your screen or your monitor. But that's actually a very simple way to get good lighting straight on to you, and not have to worry about shadowing and people seeing just this dark cloud of whatever. The regular old lamps, desk lamps, will work just fine. Take the shade off, put it in front of you so you got good lighting, even lighting on your face. And then they do make these little clamps. These clamps aren't nearly as rough as the ones up in the top left-hand corner. They can clip onto the front of your monitor. They make little circle ones that you can clip on. You'll see trade shows give them away all the time. They're maybe on your phones, but they'll go on your monitors just as well. And you just want just some good balanced light here, so you're not in the shadow or in the dark doing this. And again, be cognizant of your background. A couple days ago, I was watching a video on like just really bad webinars or virtual meetings that were going on. And there's been a couple of them. Jay has shared one in particular that we'll pass around to the managers later, I think. Or Jay, if you want to send that out to the managers anyway. I've seen some of them where like people are actually in their closet because they're hiding from their kids, trying to do meetings for work, and their kids are little monsters and they can't keep them quiet, or they're in the bathroom because that's the quietest place, but then they have echoing and lights and you just see like a toilet behind. It's super weird. People don't think about what's behind them. They're thinking about just their face. So be cognizant where you are, make sure you have good lighting. And a couple of last minute tips before we move into then the actual platform. Log in early, about 20 minutes, 30 minutes early. Check your equipment, test them often. So you'll notice that whenever we do webinars or training, I am probably 4 or 5 times between 20 minutes till and the time of class, and then right as we start class going, can you hear me? Can you see me? Can you see the screen? Can you see the monitor? And when you say, can you see me? Tell them, hey, I'm doing a hand motion. Do you see me waving? Because sometimes video gets locked up and they can actually see you, but not see the engagement. I think when you're doing your training, if the platform will allow you to, video and slides are a necessary mix. People want to see your facial expression, your smile, your engagement, your hand motions, to see you're alive and not just a voice over a screen. There's a tendency when your audience or the person you're meeting with doesn't see you, they forget that you're maybe looking at them or paying attention or engaging, and they will float off into something else, go look at email or text or something else. So Seeing you reminds them that there's a real person there. Turn off notifications. So especially for those of you who have like 6 or 7 things open, where you have email and a window pops up that says you have an email or text message or whatever it is on your screen. On your device, go to notifications, turn them off, put them on do not disturb, whatever it is, so that when you are doing the webinar, people aren't seeing like your text message and emails popping up as you go through. And then lastly is clean off your desktop. So when you go and you get out of your presentation, go to your desktop to show or demonstrate something, if there's a ton of files and everything else on your computer desktop, it's that clutter is nerve-wracking for some. It can be distracting for folks. So so keep your desk clean. And again, check in every once in a while, just as I'm doing now. So I've been talking for 11 minutes, and I'm going to be looking over to see is there any chat, comment, questions, or anything else. And then every once in a while, we're going to stop and say, are you with me? If you can still hear me and you're still logged in, go ahead and hit the hand icon to make sure that you're there. All right. And that's just a good way to keep track. On most of the platforms we're going to use, there'll be some type of indication if people have wandered off the screen to go look at their email, their text, Google, whatever it is that they're looking at. And sometimes that's okay. Sometimes they're just checking off the stuff you're talking about. All right. Okay. So that is the kind of down and dirty 10 minutes of best practices. There are some other things some other little tricks about keeping people engaged and changing things and changing your voice. But I just want to give you a few things when you're going into your meetings to do this, especially if you're going to be hosting like your office meetings over the next couple months. My presumption is in the middle of the COVID-19 thing that we're in now, probably April and May will be done remotely. My guess is even after the all clear has sounded, there's going to be a lot of people who really don't want to just come back to the office and be in a group of people for several months, maybe to the rest of the year. So this will probably be a skill set or a tool that you as a leader and broker or educator will want to use for quite a while. And even if that weren't all true, we still have people who just really prefer to stay at home for meetings and such. So there it is. There's our best tips, best practices portion. And now we're going to